we were literally giddy, jumping up and down, high-fiving each other. It was just like, we were just like little schoolboys. It was like the greatest feeling in the world. January 19, 2015 is when I had left big corporate America in the watch world and decided to team up with 3 other individuals, Craig Carter, Michael Reese, and Mark Gimbroni. So Jack Mason, when we first launched it, it was going to be based off of 5 main pillars: aviation, nautical, racing, field, and diving. That's how the brand was going to be developed, and that was something that didn't really exist, at least in the segment that we were really going after. When you launch a new brand, you're gonna, or you should start with the watch that speaks to you the most, and that was a classic pilot's watch with the high noon symbol. It really resonated with me because of the dial language. It's so easy to read. I think the simplicity was really right up my alley at the time, and still is. So when I put pen to paper, the very first thing I drew was the dial, and the very first thing on the dial that I drew was the triangle, the high noon symbol right at 12 o'clock. What's really unique about the way we launched was that everything was original. We did not use any off-the-shelf parts. We paid for our own tooling, our molds. Everything was completely custom made to Jack Mason. You know, going through each part, designing the case, designing the hands, designing the case back, the strap, the buckle, everything was ground up design. Being based out of Dallas, Texas, the Lone Star is something that's recognizable. We put that Lone Star right on the crown, and it's been our signature marking on every single watch since day one and has never changed. The secondary marking was the red, white, and blue counterbalance on the second hand. That has also been a signature marking since day one and has never changed. So those 2 items really tied, you know, the brand to our roots, which is being Texan, being American, and we felt that one day those 2 would be more recognizable. So the way we launched the brand was through a 1971 vintage Airstream that was fully restored, fully gutted, and turned into our mobile showroom. Our plan was to wrap the Airstream in vinyl and hit the road. We were pulling that thing with a Ford F-250, and when everything was ready to go, we embarked on the journey from Dallas all the way to New York City and started driving. You know, at that time, we didn't even have, the brand had not even launched. We're driving up there with a bunch of watch samples, hoping that we would get picked up by a major retailer. When you think about pulling an Airstream, I believe that, I mean, altogether from end to end, it was probably over 30 feet, if I'm not mistaken. You know, collectively, gosh, maybe 10,000 pounds, put the truck and the Airstream together. It poses a lot of challenges on the road logistically. Finding parking was one of them. Imagine trying to parallel park a big trailer. When we arrived to New York, the city that I actually went to college in, and you know, embarked on this whole watch journey, and to be back in the city, launching my own brand, yeah, that was just really special. It is grueling. It is 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., 3-4 days, I believe it is, and you're just sitting there. You're sitting there like you have a lemonade stand, and you're just hoping for people to come by, buyers mainly, because it's not it's a B2B show. Hoping for buyers to come through, find your product interesting, and hopefully write an order right there, right then and right there. You know, the buyers, they typically have these badges, and these badges tell them their name and where they're from. Well, the badges that are flipped around usually meant that they were important buyers. You're obviously not going to ask where they're from or who they are. They had seen the line, they were interested, but we still had no idea who they were. The next day, they came back and reviewed the line one more time. That's when they revealed who they were. They were Nordstrom buyers. Our white whale was Nordstrom. When they revealed who they were and then told us that they wanted to bring us in as a brand, that moment and that feeling, I mean, even right now, my palms are getting sweaty because just reliving that moment was just something, that was just so unique, so special. The amount of emotion that you're trying to contain and keep a straight face as these buyers are telling you this was, words cannot describe that feeling. The moment they left the Airstream and walked around the corner out of sight, we were literally giddy, jumping up and down, high-fiving each other. It was just like we were just like little schoolboys. It was like the greatest feeling in the world. I think at one point we were joking, all right, let's just wrap it up and go home. There's no point in standing around for another 9 hours. So once we secured the Nordstrom confirmation, the actual meeting to where they pick out the assortment happens in Seattle at their headquarters. So Craig, Michael, and I, we fly up there. As soon as we land, we go right to the offices. There was like a little Nordstrom cafe there, and we're nervously having breakfast. And there's a moment that I think we have a photo of where we all sort of fist pump each other wearing the same watch. And that was kind of cool. That was literally right before we walked into the meeting. So the buyer goes through, selects the assortment, and that's it. We're officially in launching holiday season. This was our original goal. We hit the mark. So excited. We're like, okay, guys, job well done. We're good to go. Now where do we go? We realized that we had not even booked a hotel or a place to stay. When we hit the road all over the place. We hit the road all over the country, drove thousands and thousands of miles. A lot of times we got asked, do you actually sleep in the Airstream? And there's a funny story attached to this. So again, we drive the Airstream from Dallas to Salt Lake City. Our plan was to arrive in Salt Lake City on New Year's Eve. Again, still new brand. We did not want to pay for a hotel, nor even try to bother finding a parking lot that fit our Airstream. So we pull into a gas station where all the 18-wheelers are kind of hanging out. We decide to sleep in the Airstream. But it was, I think, 7 degrees outside, 7 degrees outside. We get to the back and we were like, just freezing our butts off. And so we're like, all right, let's just drive the rest of the way. When we get there, the Airstream is a mess. Again, it's freezing. And the Airstream is so big, it's not going to go through, obviously, a standard car wash. So we found a self-service car wash where you actually spray this thing down. And we're going. And remind you, when we get to Salt Lake City, it's even colder. I think it was -5 degrees or something crazy like that. Craig is getting pissed off because the suds were not coming off. And he's like, are you rinsing? And I'm like, my hands are freezing. We're like, yes, I'm rinsing, but it's so cold. Everything was freezing, instantly. And so, we did the best we could, but this Airstream almost looked worse than the original form. It basically had frozen soap all over this thing. That's just one of many stories. When we found the Deep Ellum office, it was completely abandoned. I think it was like a speaker manufacturing facility from the 70s. When we walked into that building, it was a mess. The HVAC unit was fallen onto the ground, broken glass everywhere, dust everywhere, leftover, just random stuff everywhere. But when we focused on the guts of it, when we focused on sort of the bones of it, we quickly knew that we could make this our home, and we transformed it into this beautiful space. You got the exposed brick, the old school sort of warehouse windows, black ceiling, concrete floors. It really started taking shape, And obviously we put a lot of work into it to get it there, but we certainly made it our home, and it shaped the brand. There were so many individuals that were part of Jack Mason at one point in time who helped, literally put almost building blocks in place to grow the brand. When I think back at every individual that's been a part of the company, it truly is something special. We certainly didn't get here by ourselves. There was a lot of amazing people that helped us get here. So Deep Ellum really resembles that moment in time. We used to throw massive parties in Deep Ellum. Again, us building a brand, we wanted to get the exposure out there. We wanted to get awareness out there. So we would throw these parties that 300-400 people would show up, all packed into this space. Granted, it was a large space, but any space gets packed with 300-400 people. So those were really good times. Celebrating the brand, celebrating our team. Those were unforgettable. We did have a ping pong table. The ping pong table resulted in a lot of tournaments. I'll give a shout out to Craig. I know Craig prides himself with his ping pong paddle skills, and the ping pong was definitely a staple in the Jack Mason office. Another unforgettable moment, honestly, is our dogs. Or many of us were dog owners, and a lot of our dogs honestly kind of grew up together, which was really cool. So not only did the team grow, but our little dog family grew up together as well. So there was really a strong sense of family and togetherness in the Jack Mason building, and those are moments that I'll never forget. One of the luckiest moments in the history of our company happened. I had a meeting at the Jack Mason Deep Ellum headquarters with our great partners and representative in Miyota Movements. This guy's name is Steven, and Steven came to our office and we went through our usual meeting, and he takes out this watch sample and says, "Hey, we developed this new GMT movement." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that's great, GMT movement, that's cool." And then I remember specifically says, no, this has a jump hour movement. That's when I immediately realized what they had accomplished and what I literally had in the palm of my hand. In that moment in time, Stephen actually graciously said, "This is a new movement to us. It's going to be very exclusive, not available to all, but we want to work with Jack Mason to help launch this new movement." The next day, we got right to work. The next day, we decided, okay, we are going to dive full, head first into what we call now the enthusiast space. The watch collector and enthusiast space is very different than the space we were in before. We were more or less classified as a fashion brand, rightfully so, but that didn't mean that myself and the team weren't enthusiasts ourselves. Once I knew that we had this opportunity with a weapon, so to speak, to dive into this enthusiast space, we got right to work. We hit pen to paper, designed an entire watch based around this movement. And this was a key moment because the watch that we wanted to launch had to have all the bells and whistles that enthusiasts wanted. Myself, the team, we scoured the internet, scoured all the watch forums, YouTube, Instagram, everything, just to figure out what it is that an enthusiast really wanted in a watch. We're talking about, sapphire, quick release pins, screw pins in a bracelet, how well the bracelet works. Dimensions was a big thing. What is that sweet spot? Is it 40, 42? Is it 38? What's the taper? What's the lug to lug? I mean, every little detail was thought of. Once we had kind of these parameters set, that's when we really started to imagine what this watch actually looked like. And the vision started all of a sudden becoming a lot more clear. We knew who we were trying to hit, and we knew exactly what kind of watch we were going to make to hit that target. And so there was almost new form, new life in the brand. And that really set us on the journey to where we are today. It's just crazy how sometimes these things work out. When we launched Jack Mason for the first time, it was in New York City. There was a rebirth of the brand. And that again happened in New York City because we now were not going to the old school trade shows. We launched this Strat-o-timer GMT at a watch show, probably the largest one in the States currently, Wind Up Watch Fair, where over the course of 3 days, thousands and thousands and thousands of enthusiasts come through, look at all their favorite brands. We knew that's where we needed to be. Again, the feeling of being back there with a new sort of brand identity was something really special and unique. The Strat-o-timer launched on a Friday. It was open for pre-order, and we told each other, hey, let's not look at our phones. Let's get through this day, and at the end of the day, let's see how we did. So at the end of day one, we get back to our hotel room, and we FaceTimed our boys, Dustin and Corey, back in Dallas. I think they have a recording of this, but when Craig and I saw the daily sales and how we ended up in pre-orders that day, I mean, it was, again, another moment of just a sigh of relief, excitement, happiness, all together at one time. It was, the reaction is really funny.
I'm about to turn this laptop around.
All right, let's do it.
3.
Let's go. That's right.
So, from then on, the vision was very clear. From then on, we knew we had something going. The Strat-o-timer completely changed the company. It allowed us to continue to up our game, up our strategy, shift and transition the brand into now a more premium sort of legacy brand that we're trying to build here in Texas. 10 years is just, it blew by. It was very long in many ways, but also not very long in many ways. But to celebrate our 10-year anniversary, we have something special in the works. We have something that will very much distinctly tell the story of how far we've come. Seeing what we've accomplished so far, it only gives me so much more confidence in achieving what I believe that we can achieve. And that is to become the premier American watch brand.